Hey everybody, welcome aboard the Scudrunners.com Scudcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about buying your own airplane to learn how to fly. I know, crazy concept, but let's get right into it. Uh, right now, I'm over on the Calgary Flying Club's website. I'm going to post a link in the description, and of course, I'm going to post something up there on the forum as well. And if you haven't been over to the forum yet, I suggest you head on over there right now, check it out. There's absolutely no advertisements, no pop-ups, no spam or anything like that. Just a good, clean aviation forum that you're welcome to come on there, sign up, and talk about all things aviation. So the flying club I'm looking at here, they break down the number of flight hours to get your private pilot's license, and we're looking at 10,625. Now, this is minimum time to get your flight tests or complete your PPL. So that's an absolute bare minimum with 45 hours solo, 17 hours dual instruction, and all that stuff. It breaks it down on the website. But below it there, and this is great that they do this, it says students typically take 85 to 90 hours to feel fully prepared for their flight test. Generally, students spend between $18,000 and $20,000 to obtain their PPL. So when I'm going through these numbers in this podcast, think about the numbers as minimums. These are absolute minimums. So if you are Chuck Yeager, you're hitting the airplane or you're flying the airplane every day. You could hit it too. Why not? But you're flying the airplane every day. You've gone through the ground school. You're eating, breathing, living, sleeping aviation. These numbers are definitely attainable. I should look back on my logbook and figure out how many hours it took for me to get all my commercial licenses and ratings, and how long it over a time span of how long it took me to do it. But that's really interesting. 90 hours. God, that seems excessively high to get your PPL. But once again, if you're only doing one flight a week, or maybe two at most, you're going to forget things, and your lessons are going to be spent reviewing what you forgot the previous week. So when you're looking at getting your pilot's license, you need to get into it, and you need to jump in head first and go at it, especially if you're going to try to do it and become a commercial pilot out of the deal. I highly recommend, just from cost savings alone. Flight training is expensive. You got to do it. So going further on the website there, looking at the commercial pilot's license, the numbers that they're spitting out here shows $15,805, and that's with 35 hours of dual flight training and then another 30 hours solo flight training. So with all these numbers I'm just throwing at you here, I'm going to post something up in the forum. You need a minimum of 200 hours of flying time, and there's a combination of dual instruction hours and solo hours. Now, memory serves correctly, I'm getting a little bit foggy. Maybe you can chime in the comments there, but you need a total to get all the way to your PPL, or sorry, your CPL, your commercial pilot's license, of 52 hours dual instruction time. So the way I break it down, using their numbers and the cost to rent an airplane at $185 per hour, 200 hours of flying time total at $185 an hour is $37,000, plus another 52 hours of dual instruction at $50 an hour. Actually, I think they're about $65 an hour just for the instructor. But you might be able to find a freelance one and spend your time. Try a few different instructors. I know that's always a great piece of advice that I think everyone should really heed. If you have a bad instructor, it can make all the difference in the world if you move over to a new instructor. I had a great instructor who finished up my commercial license and part of my PPL. Barney, he's over on the forum. Come by, say hello to him. He no longer instructs, but it just goes to show you I was getting really frustrated with my training. And a new instructor came along, and boom, I was able to wrap up my training. And I've gone on to a successful career here for the last 22 odd years. I've been flying airplanes. So with those numbers, we're looking at. Oh, and I should also say, the numbers here. When they say it's 90 hours to get your PPL, and then to get your commercial license on top of that, it says their students typically spend between $25,000 and $35,000 to get your commercial pilot's license, which that's on top of the minimum of $15,000, I think it was, for your CPL, or for your private pilot's license. So now we're looking at, if you hit the minimums of 25,000 and another 15,000 or whatever it was to get your I'll go back and look, why not. Yeah, sorry, they said another $10,000, but when they say typically students are doubling those hours of flight training from 45 to 85 hours. So you're looking at double that. So you're looking at $20,000 for your your private pilot's license, and then your commercial on top of that, it looks to be another 15,000 at minimum, and 25 to 35 is what they say is the typical student will spend at their flying school getting their commercial pilot's license. So add that up, call it 20 plus, another 25. You're looking at about, $45,000-$50,000 because there's other costs involved as well. So what I've been telling people for a few years now, and this comes up on the forum on occasion, is look at owning your own airplane to get your commercial pilot's license or even your private pilot's license. So we all know at flying schools, and not to really slam flying schools, but I think there are better ways to do it. You got to remember, though, they're a commercial business. They're not your friend. They're there to make money off you. And so you might get tossed around from instructor to instructor, booking if the school is busy. You might not be able to book a plane when you want it, or perhaps you only have a few days off a week from your work if you're doing it part-time. And if you can't get a plane, you can't get an instructor or your instructor, it's just going to be bad news to try to accomplish your flight training for your commercial pilot's license in a reasonable amount of time and a reasonable cost. So, like I said, ownership. Look at this now. Buying a whole airplane, for the most part, like that's not what I'm advocating here. I'm talking about buying a fraction or a share of an airplane. I just came across a ad up on, I think it's Kijiji here. Yeah, Kijiji, for a 1/5 share in a Cessna 150. So, $50,000 airplane, which I can tell you right now, about 10 years ago, I didn't even want to pay $10,000 for a whole Cessna 150 someone was trying to sell me. Had some damage to it, and it just wasn't worth it. Anyway, let's break down the numbers. So if you bought an airplane, a 1/5 share, as in this example, for $10,000, you'd outlay the $10,000 and you would then be able to fly the airplane. Now, a lot of partnerships, there's only one or two active members that are flying the airplane on a consistent basis. So that's great. So you get maximum availability. You're also able to take the airplane overnight. You can pick and choose your instructor. You got to find a good freelance instructor, and I'll make another podcast, or we'll talk about that another time, about how to find a great instructor that's going to help you right throughout your training. So a Cessna 150, the book value says you're going to burn about 6 gallons per hour flying this airplane. Now, I like to round up and build in a bit of fudge factor. So I'm going to call it 8 gallons an hour times 200 hours to get your commercial pilot's license. So you're looking at about 1,600 gallons of avgas you're going to burn for that 200 hours. And converted over to liters, that's 6,080 liters of fuel. And I know this sounds, people are going to laugh when I can say $2 a liter for avgas up here. It's even more in some places, but I'm just going to use a nice round number, $2. So you're going to be spending about $12,160 on fuel to get your commercial pilot's license, just in fuel alone. Plus an instructor, let's say you need those 52 hours of instruction time, and at $50 an hour, and that's just a ballpark round number. You might have to pay more. I think I found one guy here for 65. But I'm just going to use round number again. $50 an hour for an instructor. That's another $2,600. And of course, engine reserves. Now, this is one thing with owning an airplane. If an engine costs for a Cessna 150 $20,000 to maintain, or it's going to be when it comes due for overhaul, $20,000, and they usually have about a 2,000 hour TBO on it. So if you're lucky and you make it all the way to TBO without any major squawks or errors, the simple math on that is $10 an hour. Plus there's other things and engine reserves, and depending on the partnership, call it $20 an hour that might be put away for engine reserves. Could be higher, once again, round numbers. And of course, for 200 hours at $20 an hour that you're going to pay into the reserve fund for this airplane, is going to be about $4,000. There's also going to be like tie down fees, oil changes, other things that might come due. So doing the math here real quick, $10,000 to buy in, another $12,160 in fuel, $2,600 for an instructor, $4,000 for engine and other thing reserves, and probably another $1,000 costs all in. You're looking around $29,000 to $30,000 to get your commercial pilot's license with owning your own Cessna 150 in this example. And that's also, the advantage of that is you're going to be able to, usually book the airplane when you want and take it on longer trips and fly the living heck out of it. And when we look back at the flying school example of what I was just going through there with the PPL and the flying club I'm looking at, you're looking at upwards of $50,000. So right away, there's $20,000 in savings alone by going it this direction. Now, of course, you might not be able to find an airplane. You might live in a small town and not have many other partners, but there are. This is just an example, and I would recommend many people go ahead and look at this option, or see if it is feasible, because there's huge advantages of doing this. And the one big advantage I'd say, after you've done all your hours to get your CPL, or like you're most of the way through it, you're going to want to get your multi-engine rating, you're going to want to get your IFR rating, and that can all be, some of that dual instruction for that can be put towards your PPL, so you can kind of or sorry, towards your CPL, which I'd recommend doing as well. But at that point, you could then turn around and sell your share in your plane. And if you just want to get your single engine commercial pilot's license, you're out of pocket $30,000. You're able to sell your share for, let's say, almost what you put into it, $10,000, and that's not unheard of. So really, you're out of pocket $20,000. These are if you hit the numbers and you go at it hard. It'll probably be a little bit more. It might take you a little bit longer to get up to speed on things. And the other benefit is you're going to really get to know your airplane. And knowing your airplane, helping out with annuals, doing elementary maintenance on your airplane, like oil changes, can go a long way to becoming a well-rounded pilot. And I used to look at resumes of people that would come across, or pilots that would send in their resumes to my old company, and you look at a guy who's owned an airplane. It kind of jump out at me as I put this on the short stack of resumes that you want to delve into further, because typically you have a better understanding of the airplane if you're fueling the plane yourself. Like, how many flight schools do you know that guys are fueling it up every morning, or whatever, just that alone. Like, I remember when I was fueling out of the Boundary Bay Airport, I go up and down the flight line and fill the Cherokees to the tabs, and the Cessna 172s up, and the student pilot would come out and make sure the cap was on and go flying. So if you got a guy who's just a little bit more hands-on like that, especially in the northern operations, it's a great opportunity, or it's a great kind of asset to have, just a little bit more knowledge of airplanes. I always found guys resumes, and when speaking with them, they had just a little bit better understanding of aircraft ownership, maintenance, and everything else, which went a long way in hiring decisions. So, not to keep this podcast, wow, I'm going on almost 14 minutes here, kind of ranting and raving about this, but it's something that I really think pilots should consider. And another thing, while I'm on the topic of learning to fly, and we'll get into this, I was flying out of Springbank Airport here, which is just to the west of Calgary, the other day, and I was burning my own gas on a private flight, and I had to sit holding short for 25 minutes while people were in the circuit, people departed, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I'm sitting here burning my own money, waiting for all these idiots to, do their circuits. So what I'd also advocate to you guys, if you're looking to learn to fly, try to find a small, sleepy airport you can do this out of, because my experience out learning out of Vancouver, that area, and seeing what goes on here now to Calgary, and it's very similar all across Canada and the world. You spend half your time commuting out to practice areas. So you take off and fly north for 10 minutes, and then you get into the practice area, which all the other student pilots are up in that quote unquote practice area, practicing their steep turn stalls, etc., etc. You're burning 20 minutes of that hour just flying straight and level. Whereas small airports that I've gone into, it's great to see these guys fire up, they taxi out, do the run up, and boom, they're in the air right away. There's no lineup for the circuit. They don't have to commute. They fly just a little bit north there. So I'd advocate to anyone looking to get their pilot's license, try to find that small, sleepy airport. And also, fuel prices are usually a lot better at these small town airports. and tie down fees are a lot less. And once again, no delays, which is going to aid in getting your pilot's license in a timely fashion. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up here today. If I made a mistake in my numbers, sound off. If there's some instructors out there right now, jump in on the forum or comment here on YouTube. And please, if you haven't been over to the forum yet, head on over to Scudrunners.com, sign up to the forum. Once again, zero advertising, talk about aviation, and again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again, everybody, and remember, fly safe.